You ready? Casey, you're down here, hon. Yes. Hi, good evening and welcome to the City of Sharonville. We have two public hearings this evening and we'll go ahead and get started with the first one. Our tax budget for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. Mr. McKeon.
Thank you. This public hearing is for the 2021 tax budget, as you mentioned, similar to the speech I gave the last couple of prior years. This is a very generic look about what a 2021 budget might look like. The exercise of this, what the code sets out, is it's really an exercise to make sure that we do not need a tax levy. And as we've discussed many times before, we have not had a tax levy since 1984. The document shows the general fund in great detail. It can be a little bit misleading when you flip from the revenue to the expenses back in towards the end of the general fund section. It shows our actual 2020 budget and then also assumes that all previous year's POs get spent in 2020. So it really makes 2020 expenditures look a little bit exaggerated compared to the 2018 and 19 that are on the page and also the 2021. Most importantly, you see a balanced budget at the end. I think that's on about the fourth page, the last page of Exhibit 1. As I say in the summary, we're obviously the pandemic's making us kind of lag a little bit behind 2019. 2019 was a record-setting year. It broke the record of 2018. So we are lagging behind a little bit compared to previous years' performances, but we are keeping pace to date with the budget, with our budgeted revenue, and somewhat staying somewhat optimistic that we'll be able to roll forward with a flat revenue budget, which is a big step to kind of easing concerns. And to date, it's only late July, but we feel like we should be able to land 2020 somewhat softly, which has kind of been our goal since this started, and hold a lot of the tools and resources that we have to kind of remedy a problem. We'll have those intact as we roll into 2021. So Exhibit 3 goes on to talk about the non-general funds, the street funds, the convention center funds, the senior housing funds, all the various debt funds and capital project funds. And that's kind of a 35,000 feet, view of what their budgets might look like for next year. And then also our debt table, which this shows the refinancing of the 2010 convention center bonds with the 2020. Other than that, this is very, very similar to previous years. Are there any questions about the 2021 tax budget?
Any questions from anyone? No.
Thank you.
Thank you. And did anyone want to speak to the tax budget? Seeing none, we will call this meeting, this public hearing closed. We'll go to our second public hearing, and it's regarding our DORA application. And I do believe Mr. Lucas is going to be speaking to us via his office.
Yes, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me share my screen. So I know council is aware of what a DORA is by now. For the public, however, a DORA simply allows people to purchase alcohol within a certain designated area and stroll around that area. So it's great for bar hopping, that type of thing. DORAs first started back in April of 2015. And for cities like Sharonville, with a population of 35,000 or less, we're allowed one DORA district as long as there's at least 4 liquor permit holders within that area. And the area can be up to 150 acres. Why do we want to establish a DORA? It's basically for economic development purposes to help our restaurants and other establishments downtown. The state requires that it's supported by by certain planning documents, and for Sharonville it is. It's the theme of one is adopted in 2010 in our downtown plan, the plan that council passed last meeting, the downtown streetscape plan, and also the upcoming city's comprehensive plan, Sharonville 2030. It's also compliant with all of our local zoning code provisions. This is the process to create a DORA. As you'll see, we're currently at the public hearing stage. Assuming council approves the DORA, the state is then notified, and it could take up to 3 weeks pre-COVID to approve. I've been told that that may now be a little bit longer due to COVID, but we will see. We also have to meet with the businesses about certain nuances of the program. You know, it may take longer than that. This is the map of our DORA. There are 6 establishments from the north to south. You have La Rosa's, you have Al's Bar, you have Already Cafe, you have the Blue Goose, you have Imperial Inn, and the VFW. The red dots on this diagram signify boundary signage, where we need to place signage so people don't leave the district with their drinks. This area, by the way, is a little bit over 57 acres, and if you remember, 150 is the maximum. So as council knows, I like question and answer documents. So I put one together for this. The first question I just answered, who's authorized to sell beverages? It was those 6 establishments. However, just because they're authorized to sell doesn't mean they will sell. They can choose not to participate. The second question, where can people walk with a DORA cup? They can walk around the district. And then some cities do not do this, but most do. You're able to go into other retail and private establishments with your drinks if that business allows it. And we'll get to that in a second. Are the hours of the DORA limited? Yes, they are. As you'll see, they're Monday through Thursday, the proposal anyway, Monday through Thursday from 5 to 11, Friday from 5 to midnight, Saturday from noon to midnight, and Sunday from noon to 9. And then with the mayor's recommendation and city council's concurrence, those hours can be changed for holidays or special events. Can you take a DORA beverage into another DORA authorized establishment? The answer is no. Once that beverage is purchased, before you go into another establishment, it has to be empty. How will patrons know what the DORA limits are? Here's some of our planned signage. This may be tweaked a little bit, but on the right, you'll see the boundary signage that we're proposing. And then for the DORA establishments who want to sell drinks, that'll be the first one on the left. For establishments that you could walk into with your drinks, that would be the middle sign. And then entities that don't want drinks in their establishments would have the third sign. You cannot pour alcohol into your own DORA cup and carry it around. One of the cities in our region was having this problem, and they just recently recommunicated that to the public that that's not allowed. Can the DORA be expanded? Council can expand the DORA, assuming all the same procedures that are going into place for this one. And then council also has an obligation to review the DORA every 5 years and choose to either continue it or dissolve it. Or you could dissolve it at any time as long as public notification is made. So that's it in short and sweet. Are there any questions?
Anyone? There are no questions.
Great. I will join you in a second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lucas. And there are no questions on the DORA. We will go ahead and end this public hearing. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call our regular meeting to order. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and thank you for masking up. If everyone would please rise, we're going to have a prayer by Mr. Schmidt, and then he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. O loving God, we thank you for all the blessings that you have given us as we gather together this evening. We ask for your guidance in all our discussions and decisions as we seek the best for our city, our citizens, our businesses, and our employees. We ask your protection for our first responders as they answer requests for their assistance. Please be with all of us, our city, our state, and our nation as we journey the path to full recovery. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. They moved the flag on the people. Thank you. Roll call, Mrs. Buhite?
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Lippert?
Here.
Mr. Duda?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mrs. Knight?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Approval of minutes from our June 16th regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, those will stand as written and distributed. We're going to go to reports and communication. Mayor Hardman.
So first of all, Vicki, you are right, and that flag is in the wrong spot. So we're going to make sure that gets, because it's not appropriate flag protocol. It's supposed to be to your right. So we will make sure that gets changed and gets put back in the right spot. So if anyone out there watching notices that, let you know that we know it as well. It just apparently didn't get done correctly in the shuffle. Welcome back. We are glad to have council back in meeting. Obviously, our staff have been back in the building for a while now. So we felt it was important. If they're back here, we can be back here to continue to do the city's business. I'm not sure how often ICRC has done kind of a hybrid setting where not only have we invited folks to be in here, but also we are reaching out to them via Zoom as well. So we are glad to be able to live stream this and also provide opportunities for the public to have input to those of us via Zoom, and they are not quite comfortable to come into the setting that we're in right now. So, and I see we have at least 4 folks that are chiming in, or at least here present through our Zoom meeting, and we're glad to see them. We'll see if they have comments later on today or if they're just watching. With regard to the DORA, as you've already heard about through our first, we were able to send out some information via our Facebook site earlier this week about the DORA, what it is, and that obviously that was going to come up to you tonight. We received nothing. And again, Facebook is not a scientifically valid pool, but it's always good to see what people are saying when we do put information out. And overwhelmingly, we received favorable responses to the fact that we are considering that and looking to go forward in taking that option. So hopefully it will liven up our downtown. Hopefully you all will support it as we go about to continue to look at ways that we can improve our downtown area. Later, as you're going to hear from Terry, we will have a public hearing on August 11th with regard to our Sharonville 2020 comprehensive plan update. So this has been a long time in the making, several public sessions to get input and information from a special steering committee that was put together of residents throughout the community to get to where we're at. And the Planning Commission did approve that at their last meeting to pass a resolution to send that on to you. So you can find all of that information on our website. It actually has a special website itself. I wish I could tell you, anybody know off the top of their head what it is? I think it's Sharonville2030.com. I believe that's what it is, where you can actually see the whole plan. It's all there, so you can take a look at it and invite the public to take a look at it, and they'll be welcome to share their comments on August 11th through that public hearing, and obviously we'll take all of your input. But it's a great document, and it's a great visionary statement for where we would like to see Sharonville be, and it's a document that is much that has been much needed. Our last master plan was 1980. 1908 was in the 80s. So that just tells you that we're in need of it. We're in need of it to look at what our vision is as a city. But more importantly, and as importantly, I guess, is we need it in order to get funding from other entities. It's one of the first things they look for when we seek out grant funding is, do we have a up-to-date and comprehensive master plan? So this will help in that realm. Speaking of master plan and ideas from the community, so one of the things we heard a lot of as part of that master planning was this idea of being a city that is more connected. You're going to see that as part of the master plan, that there is a desire on the part of our community as a whole. And we're not alone in this. I think it's communities throughout that we want to be more connected in ways other than where a car can take you. And that's why we look at ideas of bike and street and walking paths. And one of those that I think you are going to be faced with some decisions at our next meeting is the Kemper Road bike walk path that we have that is going in there that you previously approved, that we've received a significant amount of grant funding to go forward on. We have been in the process over the last couple of months with regard to negotiating the right-of-ways that we need. And again, we have most of the right-of-way because we currently have most of the right-of-way, but there's portions of a lot of the folks that live on the northern side of Kemper Road where the sidewalk path is going in, where there's some temporary right-of-way that will be needed for the time during the construction, as well as some permanent right-of-way that will be needed as well. So we've been in negotiations with those parties for the last several months. Many of them, most of them, I think the majority of them have come to agreement with us with regard to resolving and working out the appropriate price to obtain that. We have slightly more than a handful where it does not appear that we are, well, we certainly aren't in agreement yet, and we may not be in agreement by the next time you meet, which means that at that point you will be asked to take the next step, which would be for us to continue toward appropriation of those properties so that the project can move forward. I don't think the stumbling block at this point with most of those entities are what the dollar figure is. It's mostly around the fact that those properties just don't think we need this project, or if we're going to do this project, it shouldn't be where we're doing it, that we should be doing it somewhere else. And in my conversations with them, and I know some of you have been involved in those conversations with me, we certainly feel that not only do we have this connectivity issue as a city, but more importantly, a safety issue that exists for folks that are traveling along that corridor. And we know there are people that use it for bike and pedestrian walking. But it's just an important piece of what we are needing to do. We have the opportunity, we've had the funds to do it. We've looked at other alternatives. We looked at, what does it look like if we go to the south side of the street? We tried to see if there was a way to cooperate or collaborate with the Sharon Woods and some of the systems that they have within there. So all of that took place a couple of years ago when we did the initial funding. And in order to get the funding, we are kind of constricted by this is the size that a shared use path has to be. So that's why that 10-foot path is what we're dealing with, is in order to get the funding to make this project a reality. And this isn't the first street in Sharonville that we've done this to either, as you certainly know. We did this to Fields Erdel, which has gotten rave reviews, giving that opportunity to get Fields Erdel connected. We've done it with the Plainfield Road sidewalk that we finally were able to do after years of folks asking us to do that. So Kemper is not it's not a first impression street for the city. It's not the first one that we've done to take these steps on. But I just want you to be aware that we have received individuals along that pathway who do not agree with this decision that we put in this path. We've stayed firm on the decision-making process that you have made and that we have made as an administration, that we feel is important as a city to move forward in this realm. Like I said, I don't think it's an issue at this point of what the value of the property is for the owners that you will be seeing by way of appropriation for the next step in the process, but an issue of we don't think this project should happen the way it's happening. So just wanted to give you that piece of update. Chief Vanover was supposed to be here tonight. We're putting off that presentation until next week. I believe we have some folks from Springdale that will be here as well, not next week, but at our next meeting to share with you a special presentation as well for our police department. With that said, I am open for questions that you might have.
Anyone with questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mayor. We're going to move on to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. One thing before the 7 pieces of legislation that council has in front of them this evening. Regarding our FEMA project downtown, as council is aware, we had RFQ and we had 2 firms submit to that. And one was Tetra Tech, along with some others in their group, and the other one was CT Consultants. We reviewed those RFQs and we selected Tetra Tech as the better of the 2 options. After that, we had to negotiate with them about pricing and all that. As of a few days ago, a contract has been signed, so that project is going to start moving forward. Per Ohio EMA, they suggested a 1-year extension because there's been some delays. And so we also got that application in. So right now the target construction date completion is March of 2022, assuming FEMA grants that 1-year extension. Legislation this evening, like I said, there were 7 pieces. The first item, 2020-21, deals with an appropriation amendment, and Scott's here to talk about that.
Yes, ordinance 2020-21 is an appropriation for the Convention Center Fund. This is the estimate of the refund activity that we expect to need to pay out during the rest of 2020, assuming that indoor occupancy levels kind of stay status quo for the rest of the year. I will also touch on Resolution 2020 R13E. That is the resolution adopting the tax budget. That was the public meeting that we began with this evening. Any questions about either piece of legislation?
No.
I have a question, just one comment, because I didn't talk about it during the public meeting, but the best part of the whole tax budget and what I feel like is the only reason that we have to do a tax budget is to tell the county authorities how much money we're going to collect from people by way of our inside millage. And again, Scott, what would that be for next year?
0.
So you don't pay property taxes to the city of Sharonville. And for the 30-something year, 30th something year, I think it is.
Since LeBron James was born.
So,
Yes.
Well, that perspective.
Yes.
so
So,
that's it.
thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
On that property tax issue, I was in our HOA's pool 2 or 3 weekends ago, and I think 60% of the people in the pool with me did not know that the city does not collect property tax. And they were pleased to have learned that when we were talking about city stuff. Back onto legislation, ordinance 2020-22 deals with a proposed job creation incentive grant for Project Maple. As council knows, most of our leads come through Ready Cincinnati. Back in May, Ready made us aware that Project Maple was looking at Sharonville along with other opportunities throughout the Midwest. We are fortunate that assuming council approves this evening's request for an income tax grant reimbursement at 4 years at 35%, they will be locating here, signing a 10-year lease, so they are here for the long term. We should note that there was other states involved in the Midwest, so the state of Ohio is also giving the project some incentives. After a ramp-up period, Project Maple will ultimately bring 128 jobs to the city with about a $4.5 million payroll. Ian Smith from Ready Cincinnati is here tonight. I can't remember the last time we had a Ready Cincinnati representative here, so I thought, since Ian worked very hard on this project, to invite him, thank him for his efforts, and have him say a few words about the project. I also think Project Maple folks may be watching or may want to be a participant as well, but I'm not convinced of that. So,
Do we know their names? There's 3 people in the queue.
would be
If you're, I tell you what, if you were zooming in and wanted to speak now during this portion, could you please raise your hands? Nobody else is raising. Yes. Dan Toberg.
I'm not sure if Dan's going to speak first.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to allow him to talk.
Oh, go right ahead, Ian.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
First and foremost, just thanks for having us today. I wanted to echo Jim's comments. This is a very competitive project, but ultimately the company is very enthusiastic about potentially operating in the city of Sharonville. They noted the responsiveness just to the RFP that came out originally back in May. Very responsive, very attentive to the company's needs. We worked primarily through Dan on the line here, but this is a food production company. The company's name is York Street Fresh Foods. They create ready-to-eat products, and they'll serve a variety of industries, but sandwiches or salads on the go. They're premium items, and this food would be produced in the city of Sharonville. And to Jim's point, it would bring 128 jobs over the course of 5 years to the community. So I just wanted to echo the company's words in saying that they're very grateful for the opportunity to open up shop in the city of Sharonville. And Dan, I'll let you echo any additional comments. I just wanted to express our gratitude for this opportunity.
Thank you. Dan, you should be able to speak, are you?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Dan Taberti. I'm with Graydon's Economic Development Services, which is a function of our Graydon law firm based in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky and Liberty Township. And we basically have been engaged to help and assist. And we've been nothing short of pleased to working with Jim and the entire city of Sharonville to help get this project landed. Look for an announcement, we think very proximate to this meeting, hopeful, pending a positive outcome from the meeting tonight. And I know that the members of the Caruso Inc. team with Caruso Logistics, they're going to be teaming up with a group out of New Jersey called Lorenzo Food Group and coming up with a joint venture and in some ways responding to the COVID-19 demands that are out there for their ready-to-eat premium products for colleges, universities, hospitals, convenience stores, grocery stores, airports, and it's all going to be able to be produced and approximately shipped through Caruso Logistics. It's Jobs Ohio, Ready Cincinnati, and the city of Sharonville are certainly to be commended for helping put together a nice package to attract the company here. And I know they're very much geared up towards getting production going. And I know that they're probably working late hours as they get ready to get launched in their product. I'm happy to answer any questions and again, express our appreciation.
Did anyone have questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate you signing in and speaking with us, and welcome to Sharonville.
Thank you.
Hey, ordinance 2020-23 and 24 are both collective bargaining related, and Noah's here tonight to talk about that.
Good evening. As Jim said, these are collective bargaining related. 23 is related to the contract with the police sergeants, and 24 is related to the collective bargaining agreement with the police patrol officers. Back during kind of the height of the shutdown, we asked our bargaining units if they would be willing to postpone some negotiations. These two bargaining units agreed to do that. And so this is basically putting that out. What it does is it codifies, or not codifies, pardon me, it memorializes all the agreements that we reached during negotiations and then holds open any items that we weren't able to reach an agreement on until later this year when we can sit down at the bargaining table again. For both bargaining units, that includes dues deductions, work period and overtime, compensatory time, wages and compensation. And for the patrol unit, that also includes an article on promotions. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Did anyone have questions? Thank you, Noah.
Thank you. Scott touched on Resolution 2020 R13. Resolution 2020 R14 concerns the Ohio Rail Commission's project, the Railroad Safety Project at Sharon and Canal. That project needed property from 6 property owners. They have the agreements in place for 5 of the 6. They believe the other 6th one will agree, but this is the first step of the eminent domain process in case that does not happen. Again, we think that 6th property, however, will agree prior to your next council meeting. So hopefully that legislation will not be needed. And then Resolution 2020 R15 was the subject of the public hearing tonight, the DORA. One slide I forgot to put in there was just in a survey of regional cities. Mason and Wyoming have DORAs in place, and they're very happy with those. Loveland has one in place. They're started off for special events only, and then was expanded to 7 days a week during COVID. Springdale, Blue Ash, and Madeira, they do not have a DORA in place, but they're considering it maybe for next year, if not sooner. Westchester and Amberley Village do not have a DORA, and they are not considering it for a variety of reasons. And then the city of Hamilton also has one that's pretty successful that I'm aware of. That's the legislation this evening. Any questions?
Any questions? None? Thank you. For my report tonight, just welcome back to council chambers. It's been a while, and I'm glad to see everyone. Mrs. Buhite, are you ready to give your report?
Yes.
Okay.
My report is just to announce a public hearing that was requested by Community Development Director John Creech for August 11th at 7 p.m. to discuss the Sharonville 2030 Comprehensive Plan update.
Perfect.
And that's it.
Thank you. We have no auditor or treasurer's report this evening, so we're going to go on to our law director, Mr. Pete Meyer. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'm going to look into our attendees. Are there any of our people that are Zooming in? Would you like to be heard this evening? I have 2 people. If you'd raise your hand, Aaron or Denise. Neither one of them want to be heard. No one else is here from the public. We'll go to council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley. No report. Community services, Mr. Lippert.
Mark, is Mayor's Court using this chamber on August 5th? Okay, so, okay. Community services, we're going to meet on August 5th at 4, and I think we're going to do that by Zoom. So if Josh can get us some Zoom stuff. Mr. Blomer indicated that a number of pickleball devotees want to attend, so I don't think we'll fit into any of the smaller rooms. If anybody has any opinion on pickleball, share it with one of the committee members and we'll talk to them about it. Thank you.
He wanted to open something up in his, I call it the old gym, the utility room, where you could hold your meeting. They would have to set up chairs.
Mr. Duda, Ms. Knight, what do you think about that? I mean, then
they would have to set up chairs appropriately and everyone would have to wear a mask.
I think Mr. Blomer will be okay with that.
I mean, that's easier than a Zoom meeting. I don't know.
No, let's do that. August 5th, 4 o'clock, the old gym at the Sharonville Community Center. That's great. Thanks for the idea.
I'm just thinking some of our pickleball players do not take offense because you're younger than me, are older people. And they may not be Zoom.
Understood.
If that many people are coming to get 6 feet apart, I'm going to suggest the old gym.
Do you care to relay it, Mr. Blomer? Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Budget and Finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, I do have a report. Since those meetings have been kind of crazy, I am honoring a group every meeting. And this meeting, I'm honoring the Recreation Department. They've had so many positive things, what they've had to work with. And I've heard a lot of good comments on Facebook, in person. And I just want to give a shout out to Michael and his staff. They've done an excellent job. The pool has been great. I haven't been yet, but my friend lifeguards there, so she keeps me updated.
Yeah.
And just went also this weekend, if you haven't made your reservations, they are doing a extended time. So they'll be swimming in the evening, which if you have not done this, it's the most beautiful pool you've ever seen in your life. All the kids come out glistening from the lights, and it's just, and I think it's 8:30 to 10:30, or
Okay.
you might have to look it up, but you have to reserve it. So
Reservation.
right. So, but just to remind everybody, and I just wanted to say congratulations to Michael and his crew.
Thank you, because they are doing a fabulous job. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Will be on August 4th, 4 p.m. Would it be okay if we met in here, Mike, Casey? Okay, so we'll have, Casey's going to be there. I'll be there. Mark, would this be okay in this room? All right, that's what we'll plan to be.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you. Rule suspension motion. Is there a motion to have a first and only reading for ordinances 2020-21, 2020-22E, 2020-23E, 2020-24E, and Resolution 2020-R13E, Resolution 2020-R14E, and Resolution R2020-R15E. So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Tankersley. All those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no, and that does carry. We have no unfinished business, so Mrs. Booth, we'll move to new business.
Okay, ordinance 2020-20, an ordinance adopting amended Article 1, 3, and 5 rules and regulations for the Hamilton County Stormwater District within the city of Sharonville. That's a first reading.
Okay,
This is a first and only reading of ordinance 2020-21, amending 2020 appropriations for the 605 Convention Center Fund.
is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-21? So moved by Mr. Cook, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson? Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt? Ordinance 2020-21 has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2020-22E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an economic development incentive agreement for Project Maple to proceed with a job creation incentive grant and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-22E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Tankersley. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, emergency ordinance 2020-22E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2020-23E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract which the Council of Sharonville hereby approves, approving the collective bargaining agreement with Fraternal Order of Police representing Sharonville Police Sergeants for calendar years beginning 2020 through calendar year 2022.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-23E? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Tankersley. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson? Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt? Okay, emergency ordinance 2020-23E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2020-24E, authorizing the safety service director to enter into a contract which the council of Sharonville hereby approves, approving the collective bargaining agreement with Fraternal Order of Police representing Sharonville patrol officers for calendar years beginning 2020 through calendar year 2022.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-24E? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Okay, Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt? Okay, emergency ordinance 2020-24E has been approved. First and only reading of resolution 2020-R13E, adopting 2021 tax budget and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2020-R13E? So moved by Mr. Cook, second by Mr. Schmidt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-R13E has been approved. Still going, sorry. First and only reading of resolution 2020-R14E, declaring the necessity and intent to appropriate fee simple title for a public purpose from PJC Inc. for the Sharon Road project, Ham E, Sharon Road NS.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2020-R14E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Okay. Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson? Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-R14E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency resolution 2020-R15E, a resolution approving an application for a designated outdoor refreshment area and establishing a designated outdoor refreshment area in the city of Sharonville, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2020-R15E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Lippert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt. Emergency Resolution 2020-R15E has been approved. And that is it.
Thank you. It's one other opportunity. I'll see, do any of you and our participants on Zoom want to speak this evening? If so, you could just raise your hands. Neither one of them are doing so. Are there any other matters this evening to be brought before council? Mayor?
Just quickly, I want to thank our friends at ICRC for making this work, as well as our own employee, Josh, who I think also was very involved in getting all the logistics put together so that we could provide this opportunity of both getting this out live, as well as to provide some interactive opportunities for for those who wish to participate. So thank you to ICRC and thank you, Josh.
In just a moment, Aaron, I'm going to let, Aaron, can you hear us?
Yeah, this is Aaron's husband, John. So I'll reiterate what the mayor just said. I really appreciate the opportunity that you guys put this out on Zoom and allowed the community to participate in this way. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Now your name comes up, John. So thank you, John. My apologies. He must have muted himself. Okay. Anyone else this evening want to be heard before council? Mr. Lippert, you have your hand raised. You can come up, sir, and give us your name. Give us your name and address.
My name's Jerry Fry, 10509 Thornview Drive. And I apologize from the other meeting a few weeks ago. I raised my hand on the app I was using, and it looked like I wasn't. It looked like I was muted, and I wasn't.
Oh,
it was the app's problem.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't my fault.
No, it wasn't you. At first, I thought it was because you kept telling me to unmute, and it was the app that was doing it.
Okay. All right. Well, good. How can we help you, sir?
Well, I talked to, I don't know where John is, John Creech.
He doesn't normally come to our council
Okay.
unless he's presenting. Our safety service director usually talks with our department heads.
Okay, well, I talked to John and I forgot to bring my map along that shows the problem.
Okay.
We have that creek in our backyard, and this has been going on for probably before we owned the property. But it was worse when the city of Blue Ash had Plainfield Roads drainage redone from Fox Hollow. And at that point, the creek came from a small creek to a very wide creek in places. I've lost a building and my fence is damaged. That's a result of the erosion from the creek. And I don't know if there's any way the city can help or not. I was looking for maybe some, rock put along the creek to make it kind of a rock wall, not concrete, but just rock.
Normally we do not because it's private property.
Okay, then I have a question.
We had the same issue down on Thornview, and
That's where I am on Thornview.
No, I'm sorry. We had the same issue down on Creekview.
Okay, I do have a question then. Why did the city build retaining walls on private property along Plainfield Road?
Because we took their property to make the sidewalk.
No, I'm talking about up in their property.
I know. It's because
Okay.
we went into their property, what was rightfully theirs. So we had to make their property whole. You're asking me to do something that a creek destroyed. We actually destroyed that property.
Okay, I didn't know that because I
Yeah,
wasn't aware of that. That's
yeah,
why I
no.
questioned it.
We actually destroyed their property to make that sidewalk. So we made them whole.
Well, how is putting a wall up their driveway? How did that have to do with the sidewalk? I'm confused.
Because we had to tear up their property to put the sidewalk in.
I understand out by the road.
To keep the sidewalk from falling.
Okay, never mind. I have no basis then.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
I'm just asking for help and I don't know who to go to. I've gone to the Hamilton County Conservation District and their recommendation was to call the state representative and the state senator because 3 cities are involved. Blue Ash, Sharonville, and Evendale.
Right, and it's a natural creek, and that's what the people we found out going through all kinds of legal channels.
Yes.
That on Creekview, if you go down Creekview, there's 5 or 6 houses down through there that their whole backyards are falling in.
Well, I've lost my building and my fence has fallen down.
I can tell you, my father-in-law lived on
Yes.
Creekview for many, many years, and to keep his property from going into the creek, he put his leaves and things like that back there. He built it up himself by
Well, I
keeping the land.
did to the extent I could, but my back hurts now. I've put rock in there, and at one point, this city threatened me with a ticket for damming the creek up.
Well, you can't dam it.
I didn't do that. I was threatened with that because somebody reported that to the cities.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can't
The other-
dam the creek up.
The other people cut down trees, which actually dammed the creek up. But they came to me because they saw me in the creek cleaning it up.
Okay, so someone reported you.
Yes,
Okay,
it's kind of upsetting when you're trying to do right and you get threatened with a ticket.
well, it was because you were wrongfully reported.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
Okay.
saying that. I'm just
Yeah.
voicing what happened.
Right,
I am making an attempt to make the creek right, but I can't do it by myself.
right, and unfortunately, there's not a whole lot we can do as a city because of it. It's just, the creek has been there.
Well, my problem is when the city of Blue Ash changed the drainage at Plainfield, that's when the creek started getting real wide and the water flow increased tremendously.
How long have you lived in your home?
I've lived in the house since 96.
Oh, okay, I was gonna
My
say,
wife's lived there since 94.
We've had several people who say you were part of that group. then.
Yes.
Okay.
If I may, I mean, the thing is, I mean, obviously, someone can't do something that causes your property to be in a worse situation than it was.
But that's what happened.
So, and so if you feel, and if you think you have people that can prove that that's what happened, that as a result of something Blue Ash did or approved, or some builder did, and you can prove that that has caused the adverse consequences to your property, then the option is to obviously.
How do I go about doing this? Because I was told the city of Blue Ash did hydrological studies. I don't know if they did virtual computer models or if they actually did a physical study of the creek.
So what you need to do is, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but because it's private property, there's only so much we can do.
I understand that. That's why I'm
is
just
that-
looking
is
for
that
whatever
you'll-
advice and help I can
You'll
get.
need to find experts, probably contact an attorney who might have a specialty in dealing with things along these lines to see if there is a cause of action against. And it's probably not against the city of Blue Ash. It's probably against the property owners, the builders, whoever.
No, it
took
was
what
whoever
action they took.
did the drainage at Plainfield Road, because I know the fellow that lives across from Fox Hollow, and they put drainage in his property, and his property is like Creek View. It's sinking because of what they've done.
So again, I don't know who did it.
Okay.
That's where, it's a matter of going back and looking at
Okay.
where you can prove or show that there's these differences. And what I can say is we sympathize with you.
I'm just looking
You're
for a
not-
starting point and advice on where to go from here.
Right. At this, I mean, there's, to the extent that we can provide you information about that, we probably won't. We probably don't have it because it's not something we as a city have done. We haven't made any changes to that creek bed. We haven't made any changes to.
No, I understand that. I didn't know what this city is allowed. See, I saw those retaining walls up on Plainfield
yeah.
on private
Yeah.
property, not at the street,
Right.
but up the driveway.
Right.
And that was confusing to me.
Right, and that's just, I mean, we those hills used to go all the way down to the street. We built a sidewalk.
I
in order
understand the
to-
sidewalk. I just don't get building a retaining wall up in the
Well,
driveway.
well, what happened was when we built the sidewalk, we cut into the hill.
Yeah.
So at that point, you have a hillside.
Well, I
that
understand the
falls off.
retaining wall on the
So
front.
we have to maintain their property
Okay.
in order to make that happen.
It was
And then-
because the city did that. That's why you're
Right.
responsible.
Correct, right.
Okay.
Right. And we the same thing. If we went in and did something to that creek.
Yeah,
behind
okay, I
you,
understand.
We'd have a responsibility
Okay,
to
then
put
that's,
you.
I'll forget about that then, because obviously that's not going anywhere. So I'm just looking for advice on where to go next.
And that would be our advice is that you probably need to look at seeing finding an attorney or finding some type of expert out there who
I
deals
thought
with
maybe
these
like I said, I went to the Hamilton County Conservation District. They recommended talking to the representatives.
and you could do that too, but I don't know if they're going to have an answer for you either, but.
Well, the thing is, because there's more than one city involved,
Sure.
I can't go to Evendale because I'm not an Evendale resident, the same as Blue Ash.
Right.
They think I'm a nut if I go to their council and start raising hell about a creek that borders all the cities,
You're right.
right?
You're right.
Okay. Well, that's enough said then. I'll just talk with John some more then.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lucas? Yes, we did have that appointment, by kind of virtually. And Mr. Lippert is going to take on that job for us, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, no one else spoke up and nobody else wanted to do it, but Mr. Lippert, Mr. Wilson, we do want to thank you for your time in doing it. And I know that you enjoyed it, and I'm sorry that you're moving and losing your horns, but we wish you well. Did anyone else have anything else to be brought before council this evening? Seeing nothing, is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. All those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no. And I love your head shake back there, Mr. Pietmeyer. We do stand adjourned. Thank you.